Everybody, and welcome to the Eightfold Path to Inner Strength. I think we have a couple new people joining us tonight. Joshua, welcome. Nice to have you with us. And nice to see you, Maria and Teresa. Welcome back. So to start with, I thought we would do a little review. And so the Noble Eightfold Path is actually the fourth of what's called the Four Noble Truths. And these are teachings that the Buddha gave. And is there anyone who would like to go over those for us? There's a hint on the screen there. Okay, well, I'll do that then. So the first of the truths is that that there is suffering in our experience of human life and animal life. We're not suffering all the time, of course, but it's ever present. You know, we have little things that we suffer from, you know, hunger, thirst, you know, several times a day. And then, of course, there's the suffering of illness and old age and the death of loved ones and our own death that we have to face. So the human life is really filled with many moments of suffering in its lifespan. Hi, William, welcome. We're just going over the Four Noble Truths. And I was asking if anyone wanted to go over those for us. I just mentioned the first one, the knowledge of suffering. Would you like to go over any of them with us, or should I just keep going?
Yeah, well, it seems like what we're coming up on, what we talked about last week is very related to these, because being aware of the our involvement in the cause of suffering and being aware that there's a path out of suffering and the resolve to follow that path, those are all really pertinent. I think each of these eightfold qualities that we're covering in this course, they all harken back to this, to the Four Noble Truths.
Yeah, that's right. They really do. And, you know, they're just helping us to alleviate different aspects of the suffering. So, you know, just to make a point of the second noble truth that the Buddha taught, there is an origin for this suffering, and usually it's referred to as frustration. You know, we talked about it as, you know, not getting what you want and getting what you don't want, that kind of aspect. Then we go on to the third one, which is knowledge of the cessation of suffering. So it's basically saying, yes, there's human life is filled with suffering. We can't avoid it. It's caused by our frustration. But there is a way out of that suffering. And it's not saying, you know, we can avoid the vagaries of human life, the ups and downs, but we can keep ourselves from being attached to that suffering. We can have a little distance between ourselves and our experience, and that helps us to have some perspective, you know, just like a wiser perspective, which goes a long way towards helping us to reduce the suffering that we would normally have. And then the fourth, anyone want to talk about the fourth? Well, that's what this class is all about. It's this eightfold path, and it's basically just following a path where we are making an effort to help other beings, and through that it brings us more joy and peace and happiness in our lives. So, and we're going into all these various details of how this path can be followed. Okay, so that's the Four Noble Truths. And usually when you go with traditional Buddhist teachings, you talk about the Four Noble Truths first, and then you go into the Eightfold Path. But my sense was that in this time in our world, there's so much suffering, and we're so acutely aware of it that I think people wanted to go more for, how can we relieve this suffering? So that's why I'm kind of focusing on the Eightfold Path rather than the Four Noble Truths in this class. And then I thought we could just do a review of what the Eightfold Path is. And so the first, and the Eightfold Path can be divided into 3 sections, and like it's shown on the slide here. The first is wisdom, or in Sanskrit it's prajna. And so these 2 really have to do with kind of having the right view, right understanding of the nature of reality. So the first one is right view and understanding the nature of reality. And the second is right resolve, and that's the aspiration to act with correct intention and doing no harm. So based on that understanding the nature of reality. And then, I'm sorry, the second one is a group of 3 that is ethical conduct. So in Sanskrit, that's sila or shila. And the first is right speech. So that's the one we're going to focus on tonight. And that's avoiding lying and harsh speech, and a couple others we'll go into. The fourth is right action. So not killing, stealing, engaging in sexual misconduct, things like that. And the fourth is right livelihood, which is making a living in an ethical way. So, not hunting, killing, being a butcher, that sort of thing is considered not the best choice for a livelihood from the Buddhist perspective. And then the last 3 are grouped into what's called mental discipline or samadhi. And so those include right effort, which is acting with skillful thoughts, words, and deeds. Right mindfulness, being mindful of one's body, feelings, and thoughts. And right concentration, practicing skillful means. Sorry. Let's see if there was any. When practicing skillful meditation, skillful means and also skillful meditation. Okay. So then I thought we'd do a review of the ones we've already gone over. And so the first one is right view. William, do you want to say anything more about that? You did a beautiful explanation of it last week.
Yeah, it seems to hinge on 2 things. There's right relative view, and that has to do with the understanding the nature of our relationship with the world and beings, and then right, I guess, higher view or ultimate view, which has to do with understanding the true nature of the true depth of our predicament, if you will.
Good. Yeah, that's a very nice, concise explanation of this one. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add or any questions about it? Especially if any new people that have any questions about this particular one. No. Okay. Then we'll go on to the second, which is right resolve. Anyone want to say anything about that one? Well, right resolve is, sometimes called right intention, and it has to do with, the quality of uh, really heartfelt conviction and persistence and determination in following these um, uh, positive actions. So the first is the intention of harmlessness, and that's, vowing to not cause pain or loss or destruction of any living thing. So, of course, um, one would not want to kill any human being, but it also refers to the animals as well. So even the kind of pesky insects that invade our home, we still want to try to not harm those or kill those. So, we talked about there's ways you can deter the ants from coming in with cinnamon or peppermint oil. You can put a glass on top of a spider or other kind of insect in the house, slip a piece of paper under it, and then take them outside. So just things like that, as much as possible, avoiding killing any beings. Then the second is the intention of non-ill will. So that means giving up any angry or punishing reactions towards others, people, animal, and plants. I was thinking about this when I found a weed in our driveway, and I didn't have a tool to take it up, and I just kind of kicked it with my foot. And I was thinking, that's kind of a harsh way to treat a plant, even though it's a weed. But I would never have thought of that if I hadn't been studying this. So, it's just a matter of becoming more sensitive and aware of how our actions have results. They send out a certain energy or wavelength that we broadcast from our being, and that has results to it, good and bad. And the third is the intention of renunciation. So that is renunciation with the enchantment of the illusory nature of the world. We talked about that quite a bit with the first class, and when we were talking about right view, that really the world as we know it is not that different from a dream. It seems very real while we're here, but if you think just even like 50 years ago, maybe 100 years ago, none of us were here on this plane of existence. And 100 years from now, we won't be either. So if you think about it that way, this life we're living is just kind of a very fleeting experience, a fleeting moment, and to grasp onto it as so solid like we usually do is not really the way that it is. Our lives really are much more fragile and almost dreamlike, or like a bubble or things like that. Lots of similes in the Buddhist tradition. So when we can see that, then we also see the suffering that's part of that. When we're trying to grasp onto this and make it solid and make it real and pretend we're going to live forever, that kind of adds to our suffering. But when we can see the happiness and the peace and love that's available when we're not grasping after our own selfish wishes and our believing in ourself as real, then we become more open, and we're more aware of what's going on in our world around us with other people. We see naturally when someone else is in need, and we're kind of inclined to do what we can to help other beings. And when we're living that way, then we're going a long way towards giving up our suffering and gaining greater peace and joy in our lives. And we talked about that in Buddhism, at least for the lay people, especially the renunciation, what we're giving up is really just our suffering. That's all we're really being asked to give up. So, then why don't we go on to this week's class, which is right speech. And so we've moved from the quality of prajna or wisdom that we had focused on in the first two classes. And now we're getting into the realm of ethics or morality. And these, I think they're a little maybe simpler and easier to relate to because, you know, we've been probably brought up with that our whole lives, you know, with our parents, you know, teaching us, you know, that it's not right to lie. You know, it's one of the 10 commandments that, you know, are from the Judeo-Christian tradition. You know, these are all things kind of that almost all religions and almost all people consider to be important practices for being a kind of a good person, a healthy person. So would anyone like to read what the Buddha said about what is right speech? It's on the board there, on the PowerPoint. All right, well, I can do that. And what is right speech? Refraining from lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and meaningless speech. And this is the teaching that the Buddha gave from the text called the Discourse on Mindful Meditation. So the first is refraining from lying. And I must say that these are all four that are very easy for us to fall into as human beings. I know you know, have to deal with all of these myself, doing all of these four things. And it's not something like you can just decide once, okay, I'm not going to do any of these anymore. And then that's it. No, this is a really recurring process that's going to happen throughout our lives, where we have to keep making efforts in this area. And you know, as we do, we'll start to see that things can really change. And speech is so powerful. You know, it's maybe sometimes even stronger than thoughts or actions in some ways, because especially as human beings, we're very sensitive to speech. You know, if we're scolded, you know, it really hurts us maybe more than someone even hitting us might. So it's really important to become sensitive to these four, you know, how we do them, why we do them, when we do them, and how we can do the opposite in as much as possible. So the first one, refraining from lying, and then of course the opposite is always telling the truth. And I'm kind of reminded of this one where, you know, it's kind of a cliche, but you know, your friend puts on a dress and says, you know, does this make me look fat? Right? and I was thinking about this, and you know, you don't want to hurt your friend's feelings, right? So, but you don't have to lie. You could do something like say, you know, the one you had on before was much more flattering than this one, right? So there's ways you can deal with this without having to lie. You know, if it's important to you not to lie, even little white lies that we say, maybe sometimes to make people feel better. then you know, it kind of frees you. Like really, when you tell a lie, you're the one that really suffers from it. You know, the person you lie to may also, because they learn to distrust you, and then that makes them maybe distrust people in general, and so it's harmful to the other person as well. But it's mostly harmful to you, because you kind of give up some of your integrity and your confidence in yourself when you do that. So I was just wondering if anyone else has any examples of, you know, little white lies that people tell, or even maybe a lie that you told in the past that, you know, still haunts you. I know I have one even just from my childhood, you know. But does anyone else have any that they can remember? Maria, it looks like you might have something. I think you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
I wasn't. I was just thinking about the other day that I had, but I don't know if it's refraining from lying. It might have been avoiding divisive speech, or basically it was that my older sister had said she went to go get a flu vaccine or something, and then I texted her, "Oh, you're really brave," and then she thought. And then she said, "Well, why? Why is that?" And then I remember how she was previously kind of being a little judgmental about her daughter not being anti-vaccine, because, you know, it's a controversial issue. So then I thought, gee, should I like really press for like the full truth, you know, and start an argument with her as well? Because I partly was thinking, you're brave because you're risking all of that exposure, you know, to other things in the vaccine. But I also thought about the needles. And so I started texting, and then, you know, like, well, I understand it's controversial, the vaccine, and everyone has their own opinion. And then I realized that's just going to inflame her. What can I say that's truthful, still truthful, but not having to engage in some kind of divisive whatever? And so then I thought, you know, in truth, the first thing that came to my mind was the needles. So that I erased everything and just said needles mostly. And she just goes, "Oh." And I thought, was that lying, or was that just sort of being truthful as far as not being divisive? I don't know, you know. But, you know, I did have to think about it, you know. So I guess that was just what came to mind. I don't know if it exactly fits into the categories we're discussing right now. You know, it's just like, does it also include just saying that part that might be helpful, or avoid confrontation, you know, unnecessary confrontation? I don't know. You know, it's like, does omission also come into not being divisive? I don't know. You know.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, like you're saying, some of these four kind of overlap a little bit, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, when you're trying to tell the truth, you're also trying to avoid being divisive. So, but I think, you know, in general, the whole underlying meaning of these, looking at these, is, you know, being kind to others and supporting them through our speech, rather than, you know, putting them down or making them feel bad. So I think it sounds to me like that's what you were trying to do with your sister.
Right, because then I started thinking, if I say that to her, then I'm kind of judging her also, like, wow, you took this dangerous vaccine. Then that's not gonna help her either. Yeah, that's my opinion. And what is, I guess it's the intent. Like, what is my intent in sharing, you know, contrary, you know, view with her, and what's the outcome, and is it even necessary? You know, yeah, I mean, it's like, do I have to bring up this my opinion of the, you know, the fact is that she took a vaccine, and maybe I should just say what I can to be, it's already done, you know. to consider, how do you comfort her, how do you, but still be, I guess it's really thinking about why are you going to say what you're going to say. It's kind of examining what is it that you're trying to do. Are you just being compelled to share something because you want to insert your opinion? And what's the purpose of that? Where's that going to go? Is it helpful? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, no, those are really good points. Like, if you examine your intent, when you say something, that can be really helpful, because it sounded like with that you were thinking, well, she was maybe being a little hypocritical about, kind of arguing with her daughter about vaccines, but then she was getting one too.
No, her daughter, actually, her daughter and I share the same opinion about the vaccines, and my sister, she'll love to have, I think she's got 3 or 4 in the last few months. She's like vaccine crazy. But I thought, but she needs that comforts her. That's her view. Why do I have to, bring up the opposite thing of that? If I'm saying all views are valid, why don't I just practice that right now? I just saying, okay, her view is valid. Why am I going to bring up my opinion about it? Just be supportive of her,
Yeah, that's a really good point, that, somebody else who has a different view than ours, it's really just as valid as ours, maybe not from our perspective, but from their perspective it is,
Yeah. Especially if it's something that's already done. It's not as if she came to me and said, what do you think about, I'm considering, what do you, then you share it, because it might, she's invited that, she's, they've given that permission, to, but yeah, it's a thing about what am I trying to do by saying this? What's the purpose of this? Do I need to say this? Can I say something else? What would support the circumstance? What's the best outcome? Because everything is sort of like it's pushing something in a direction. Everything you say pushes it this direction or that direction. So you really have to be thoughtful about what your influence is going to be in a discussion.
Yeah, those are really good questions you were saying, just think about what you're trying to accomplish with this, with your speech, and
is it going to be helpful?
Is it going to be helpful? Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, great. Those are really good things to be thinking of when we're communicating with people. Anybody else have any examples of being truthful or or not truthful from the past? Any experiences you want to share on this one? It's funny, I have this one where when I was a little girl, I must have been like 8 or 10 years old, and there were some lollipops, in my family. I'm from a big family, 5 kids, and there was only several of the lollipops. There wasn't enough for everybody, and I wanted one, and so I said I wanted the purple one, and my dad said, "You don't like the purple ones." And I said, "Yes, I do." and so he let me have it. I think he wanted it, but he gave it to me. And then, I tried it and realized I didn't like it. And so I kind of put it in the trash can, kind of hid it in the trash can. And it's funny because, this happened, many, many years ago, but I still think about it. It's like I think that when I told him that I did like it, I think I knew that I was pretty sure I didn't like that flavor, but I wanted one of these, lollipops anyway, so I said that I did. But whenever I kind of think about, telling the truth or not, I always remember that I felt that I was being untruthful to my dad, and I still feel bad about doing that. So, sometimes even something from many, many years ago can still kind of stay with us. So, as much as we can, we want to really try to not be untruthful, to as much as we can tell the truth. And like Maria was saying, even not even so much just the words, but the intention. If we have that intention of being helpful to people, that's a really important thing that we need to be doing. So then let's go ahead and move on to the next one, avoiding divisive speech. And then the opposite of that is promoting harmony among people. So that's a little bit, Maria touched on that as well. But that one, in my understanding, it kind of has to do with backbiting. So, if when you're in an office, there's usually always a little something going on in that realm. And I know wherever I've worked, there's always, well, she didn't do this, and she always, does this. And so it's very easy to fall into that one. And, see somebody else's faults much more clearly than we see our own, right? and discuss them with our colleagues or our friends. That one, I think it just really helps if when you start down that path, if you recognize it. And that's the first step, is to recognize that that's what you're doing. And then the next step is to change your path. So instead of, talking about everybody else's faults, you might want to focus a little more on your own and focus on, the positive things that the other people that you work with or you live with, what you can focus on in as far as the positive things. Anyone have any comments about this one or questions? Okay, well then let's move on to the third one, not using harsh speech. Or conversely, using pleasing, kind, and gentle words. And so that's, like very, coarsely speaking, not using swear words, not yelling at people. And I was thinking with this one, even animals, you might need to pay attention to how you talk to animals, because they're very sensitive to the tone of voice and everything. So if you're kind of, yelling at your dog or cat, and bad dog, or bad kitty, they really can, you can see how they react, they kind of start whimpering, going away with their tail between their legs, or, the kitty's kind of, so, it's not only with humans, but it's also with the animals too, that we want to, try to, as much as we can, use kind and gentle words. And it just, it just changes the atmosphere of a conversation when you're doing that, as opposed to when you're using harsh speech. And I think this one is especially helpful for families, because you can think, especially like when you've got teenagers in the home, there's always, this kind of interaction between parents and children, especially they're trying to assert their, personalities and often, children will be very harsh towards their parents, with their speech. But it's interesting, I've noticed a lot of times when you hear that from little kids, then, you know, it's kind of because they're parroting what they've heard from their parents. So I think this is a really important thing for parents to be aware of with their children or grandchildren even. So anyone have any comments about that one, about the harsh speech? Okay, and then the last one is shunning meaningless speech. So speaking mindfully so our speech is useful and purposeful. So this is just kind of idle chatter, gossip, you know, just kind of running our mouths, you know, and we could just as well be quiet, you know, and what do they say? If you can't say something nice about someone, just better not to say anything at all. Is that kind of thing, you know? It's just really, you know, kind of using speech in a way that's just like kind of frivolous and meaningful. And, you know, sometimes it's fine to, you know, you're with your friends or family and you're just being silly. That's okay. But, you know, if you're doing it all the time and you're speaking like that all the time and you're kind of just idle chatter, you know, that really is kind of meaningless, then you might just want to look at that and see, you know, does that really need to be said, or would it be better if I was just quiet? Any other comments on this one at all?
I was just thinking that when it says using pleasing, kind, and gentle words, that it's kind of it's somehow when you do that, you really do have to begin to develop your position, you know, like to make him authentic and not just fake, you know, where you're just like, oh, don't do that, you know, where it's just fake and you're just kind of grinding your teeth. But it has to kind of, you have to fill it, you know, to make it authentic. And so doing that, like, what is just over time, is like fake it till you make it, even, you know, and all this, then you're beginning to actually feel that the feeling and the intent and the perspective behind it, you know. It's just because, anyway, yeah, it's like this, you know, it was just that whole thing about not just saying it, but actually feeling it, you know, really authentically thinking it. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's not, I don't think this is just about being polite, you know. Though, as you say, sometimes that's maybe a first good step, you know, if you're used to, you know, swearing and using, you know, kind of harsh language to people, then yes, maybe you start with being polite. But I think this is more, like you say, it's like more genuine. It's you need to be genuinely expressing, you know, the thoughts of caring and gentleness and helpfulness to people, rather than the critical or you know, condescending or, you know, angry speech that, you know, makes people feel bad.
So maybe that's where you know, where you're saying that you integrate them all, because if you're using pleasing, kind, and gentle words, and you're doing it in a way that's authentic and not just fake, it's because you bring the truth into it, always telling the truth. And when you bring the truth into pleasing, kind and gentle, then you're actually developing a different consciousness to bring to actually integrate truth and kindness. You know, it's not just fake words, it's you actually being truthful. So you find something in you that makes it the truth, you know. And then you just find that place, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, that kind of these all work together. And yes, we're not just doing this on a superficial level, you know. As much as we can, we want to have our words reflect our thoughts, you know, and that our thoughts are really, you know, looking towards what can we do that's going to be helpful for beings, you know. in whatever way we can think of being helpful. And so then our words are going to be helpful in expressing whatever thoughts we have that we think might be helpful for someone. So yeah, it's a whole way of thinking and speaking that, you know, we need to really kind of pay attention to. So yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments on these 4 aspects of right speech?
I've found in my life that I often think of meaningless speech or idle gossip, they sometimes call it, as being kind of harmless, but it can very easily drift into divisive speech and harsh speech, and you don't even know it's happening, and the conversation just drifts around and suddenly you're there.
It's a good point. You're right. That idle speech doesn't usually go towards something uplifting and enriching, does it? It tends to go the other way, like you said. Especially if you've got a glass of wine or a beer. It's going to go down this kind of a little bit brambly path, which we'd like to avoid. That's for sure.
I had one comment. You know, you rang a bell when you mentioned if you don't say something, if you can't say something nice, don't say it all at all. My mother used to say that often. And so I think part of the right speech, though, is listening. So not having just idle or meaningless speech also has to do with really knowing what they're saying and comprehending that and being a part of it, and you know, and just participating and trying to really genuinely help. So, you know, to me, it's if you haven't really heard, if you're talking over someone, then you can't really, or if you're just talking to hear yourself talk, then you can't genuinely hear what they're saying and really dig into the meaning of what they've said. So that listening part is obviously very important. So, and I feel like I go through parts of life where I want to hear myself more, or parts of my life where I really want to listen more. And it's kind of fun to catch myself saying, just listen to that person, because then you'll learn, you'll know what to say. So anyway, I haven't chimed in because it's really loud where I am. So
Are you in a car?
I'm at the beach. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It caught me off guard. I was working and I had to stop. So
Okay. Very good.
yes,
Well,
not where I want to be.
that's a really good point, Joshua, about listening. And so and I'm really glad you brought this up, because, you know, some of the things I've been reading about right speech really focus on how listening is really important. And, you know, especially if we can kind of change our focus on how our speech is. And so when we're not being critical and harsh with people, but we're being gentle and truthful and kind towards them, then they start listening to us better. And then when someone's listening to us, we become a better listener too. So I think you're really right that this listening is a big part of this process. And so, you know, if kind of like Maria was saying, if she could listen to what her sister was saying, you know, that, you know, getting this vaccine, you know, made her feel more comfortable and safe, you know, that if we can really listen to what somebody's saying, then, you know, when we do have something to say back, you know, it's maybe going to be more meaningful and more helpful to them. So yeah, that's really important part of this. In fact, maybe it's more important that we know how to listen than that we know how to speak, right?
Oh, well, to her defense, I automatically thought it was her sibling, so that's a different category. You know, there's probably a long history there of, you know, wanting to help I guess you want to help your family more, maybe. I don't know. It just seemed a little different when you're talking about your sibling, I guess, to me. So,
Yeah. That's a good point too, though, because, with siblings or other people we've worked with for a long time, you get this history, right? And they say something that, triggers a memory or a pattern. And, we just kind of go right back into that, well, you never let me, do what I wanted to do. You always tried to control me or whatever, the patterns you had with your siblings would be. So I think that's a really good point, that we need to be aware of that when we're communicating with people. We're not just talking about what we're talking about today. We're talking about, what we talked about a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago too.
well, and I also think you just want to help your family more too. You take more, there's more, I guess, skin in the game. I don't know, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting how with families, you love them, but then also sometimes there's the most tension that you have, with your family, because the people that you're closest with can sometimes be the ones who know how to push your buttons, right? So it's kind of it's both, I think, that we love them, but we also have a little bit of a love-hate things going on sometimes too, or the rivalries or the jealousies that we had growing up.
It's
So,
true, because you and I don't want to be divisive or say anything about my sister, but yeah, she does have a different way. I mean, she can often be very judgmental and blurt out her opinions without thinking about how it's affecting the person that she's talking to, because I've seen her do that. She's done it to me, she's done it to her daughter. But then I also remember reading one time that, just like one person in a family can be the beginning of changing the dynamic, and so maybe we can just be that person or whatever, or try.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good point, that, sometimes we have to keep trying, like we try and we fail, and then we try again and we fail again, and then we try again, and maybe the third time's the charm, and it starts working. Or maybe it's the 50th time then it really starts working. Some of these things take a lot of effort, a lot of practice, and it's an ongoing process. I don't think you ever just get it. Like, okay, I got it now. I'm really, my speech is going to be really impeccable. No, we keep having to go through this over and over. So yeah, I think especially this one it's tricky. It's something we're always going to have to work with. Okay, any other comments about right speech? All right, so if not, we're going to go on to doing a practice. And for those of you who are new, we usually do a Kumne practice, which is like a Tibetan yoga, and then we do a meditation, and some chanting, and then sitting meditation. So Josh is going to be a little maybe difficult if you're in the car, but if you can get out and so you can move, that would be good. But if you can't, why don't you go ahead and just sit like in a meditation position and focus on your breath. So especially because we're working with speech tonight, speech and breath are really connected. So just try doing some deep breathing. It helps, you can count. So if you breathe in for 4 counts, and then hold it for 4 counts, and then exhale for 4 counts. That's a really nice, soothing way to breathe. And for those of you who are doing the movement, you can also try doing the breathing along those lines as well. So what we're going to do is a practice called feeling body energy. If anyone's got any back injuries or neck injuries, you need to be really careful with this one. But if I'm going to show a variation that helps. So I'm going to turn the screen around. You can see me a little better. Okay. So this exercise is called Touching Body Energy. Some of you might be familiar with the Kumne book that Tartang Tulku has written. And so we're going to stand with our feet about hip distance apart, our arms by our sides. And then we're going to slowly lift our arms up in front of us until they're shoulder height. And then we're going to bend over from our waist. And so we'll be bending down. And you can bend your knees a little bit as you're going down. And this helps protect your lower back if you have any lower back issues. And we're just going to go ahead and come down to the floor or as far as down as you comfortably can come. And once you're all the way down, you can stretch your fingers nice and widely open, kind of like this, like a cat. You can think of a cat stretching its paws out. Nice stretch for the fingers. And then take a nice deep breath. And then slowly roll up one vertebrae at a time till you're in a standing position with your arms in front of you, out in front of your shoulders. And then let the arms continue up until they're overhead. And once they're overhead, we want to give a little bit of an arch backwards. So really opening the chest, which helps the breath be very relaxed and open. And keep your breathing nice and deep. If you'd like to do that 4 counts of in-breath, 4 counts of holding, and 4 counts of exhale, you can do that also while we're doing this movement. And then let the arms slowly come back down to your sides. And if you'd like, you can do this to each of the directions. So starting with the east, so that of course would be where the sun rises in the morning at your home, or where you are, Joshua, at the beach. So you could go ahead and lift your arms up to shoulder height. Take a nice deep breath. And slowly exhale as you bend over, keeping your knees bent slightly if you would like. And once you're down as low as comfortable, just go ahead and hang there for a bit and stretch your fingers nice and widely open. And relax the fingers and slowly roll up one vertebrae at a time until your arms are out in front of you And then let them continue up, overhead. And then once overhead, bend back slightly, opening the chest, allowing the breath to be nice and deep and open. And then slowly let your arms come down in front of you. And if you'd like, you can take a quarter turn to your right, and you'll be facing the south. So as your arms come up, you can think of the sunny southern direction. And once your arms are shoulder height, go ahead and begin to bend over from the waist. Bending the knees slightly to protect your lower back. And then when you're down, just go ahead and hang. Let everything relax. Shoulders, arms, legs. Take a nice deep breath. Further relax. Go ahead and stretch your fingers nice and widely open. And then let the fingers relax. We'll slowly roll back up, one vertebrae at a time, till our arms are out in front of us, in front of our shoulder height, and then let the arms continue up overhead, palms facing out. And give a nice arch back, opening up the chest, relaxing the shoulders and the arms, the neck, back of the neck. And then go ahead and let the arms slowly come down to the sides and the head slowly straighten. If you'd like, you can take another quarter turn to your right. And now we're facing the west. So as your arms come up, you can think of the beautiful reds in the sunset, which is about to happen soon. And slowly bend from the waist, bending the knees a little bit, if you'd like, and going all the way down. And just hang like a rag doll. Just let all the tension in your shoulders, neck, back, arms relax. Go ahead and stretch the fingers nice and widely open. And then let them relax. And slowly come up, one vertebrae at a time, letting the arms kind of follow with the body, so that once you're straight, your arms are straight out in front of you. And let the arms continue up overhead. Once they're overhead, give a nice stretch back, a little arch to the back, really opening the chest, the whole front of the body. And then slowly let the arms come down in front of you. And if you'd like to take a quarter turn to your right, then you'll be facing the south. So as your arms come up, the north. Be facing the north now. And then once the arms are up, go ahead and bend from the waist. Bend the knees a little bit. And bend forward. Just hang, let all the tension in the whole upper body relax. Have your breath be nice and slow and steady. Go ahead and stretch the fingers nice and widely open. And relax them and slowly roll up one vertebrae at a time. And let the arms continue up overhead. Once overhead, give a nice stretch back, little arch in the back, opening the whole front of the body. And take a deep breath and slowly let it out as the arms comes down slowly in front. And we're going to do this one last time to the east, facing the east, but if you'd like, you can focus on the center, so that means all the space above you and below you. So once more, let the arms come up, shoulder height. Then bend from the waist, bending the knees slightly, rolling all the way down. And just let any tension you have in the body, the upper body, and the legs, arms, shoulders, let it all just hang out. Go ahead and stretch the fingers nice and widely open. And then let them relax. And roll up slowly, one vertebrae at a time, letting your arms follow the body. And once they're out, shoulder height, let them continue up. And once you're overhead, give a nice stretch back, a little arch to the back. Nice deep breath. And slowly let it out as the arms slowly come down to your sides. Right, if you'd like, you can shake out a little bit of any tension that you might have in your body, your shoulders, neck, back, legs, feet, hands. Just let it all relax. And in Tibetan tradition, we talk about body, breath, and mind, or body, speech, and mind. And we're always trying to integrate those three. So this is a really nice exercise for that, to help us to integrate the body, breath, and mind so that we have a nice flow of energy. And that it's really helpful before we meditate to do a little bit of exercise like this to just kind of get the flow of the energy moving. Anyone have any questions about the exercise before we go into our meditation practice? Okay. So in this class, we usually work with a different mantra each week. And tonight we're working with the mantra of one of the Buddhas named Vajrasattva. And he's a Buddha of purification, forgiveness of sin. So if we have anything we've done wrong, any speech or actions that we've done that were harmful to others, or, you know, harsh, unkind, untruthful. We can ask for forgiveness through the inspiration of Vajrasattva for this. And he also is an embodiment of all of the meditation Buddhas. There's a meditation Buddha associated with each of these 5 directions that we just were facing. And Vajrasattva is considered to be an embodiment of all of these directions, the qualities of all of the Buddhas of these 5 directions. So it's very powerful presence in existence. So we'll chant the mantra about 10 times, and then we're going to sit quietly in meditation for a little bit, and we'll have a little visualization as well. So I'm going to go ahead and chant it once, and if you then want to join in after that, that's great. It usually works better if you keep muted, however, just for the reverberation, so we'll try it that way. Om Vajrasattva Om. Well, I should just mention Om is like a seed syllable that kind of relates to the crown chakra at the top of the head and the whole body energy. Vajrasattva is his name. Vajra is like, means like a diamond, or, you know, very strong, like a adamantine, this very strong substance. Sattva is like an enlightened being, someone who is, you know, embodies wisdom. And then Hum is the seed syllable for the heart chakra, in the heart area. Om Vajrasattva Hum. 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 So we'll be sitting in what's called the 7 gestures posture. So that means our legs form a nice solid base for the body. So if you're sitting on a chair, it's better not to have your legs crossed, but just more have your feet both on the floor, nice and solid. Or if you're sitting on a cushion, you know, have your legs in cross-leg position as a nice solid base for the body. Hands are on the knees, or if you prefer, they can be in your lap with the left under the right. Those are both meditation gestures. Shoulders are relaxed. If you want, you can pull them up and back and down to make sure they're as low and relaxed as possible. Chest is up and out a little bit. Chin's tucked in slightly. Both of those things help to make the back a little straighter, which helps the energy to flow through the body more easily. And the eyes can be either closed or gazing gently on the ground in front of you, about 3 feet in front of you. And the tongue can be curled so that the tip of the tongue touches the back of the upper teeth, the upper palate. And that allows us to breathe evenly through both nose and mouth at the same time, which is a nice relaxed way to breathe. And if you'd like, you can visualize a white light coming into your body through the crown chakra at the top of your head. And the light can fill the senses, relaxing the muscles around the eyes and around the ears, the neck, the nose and the mouth, relaxing all of the muscles in the face and the head. The light can then flow into the throat and the neck, opening the throat chakra so that we can breathe very nice and gently and deeply, and helping our speech be kind and gentle and honest and harmonious. And then we can let the light flow into the shoulders, relaxing the shoulders, flowing down into the arms, the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, finally into the palms of the hands, the fingers. And the light can also flow into the torso, relaxing all of the organs, touching them with light, transforming them into a body of light. And we can have the light flow into our hips and legs, knees, calves, ankles, feet, relaxing the palms, the soles of the feet, finally the toes. And if you'd like, you can also imagine the light radiating out from your body into all directions, touching all beings with the same beautiful white light. And transforming all of their suffering into joy and peacefulness and light. So let's just sit for a few minutes like this. If you do have any thoughts, you can just let them come and go. Just kind of watch them. No need to chase after them. You can also just focus on the breath, breathing in nice, fresh, clean energy, breathing out any tension, worries, anxieties, anger, fear. Breathing in only good thoughts and positive energy. Letting go of anything negative. So, in the Tibetan tradition, at the end of a meditation, we dedicate the merit. So any positive energy we might have created, we want to dedicate to all sentient beings, all beings that have thoughts, so all animals. So we talked about the body, the Om is the body energy, the Ah is the throat or speech, breath energy, and then the Hum is the heart energy. So we're with body, speech, and mind, we're dedicating the merit. So for this coming week, if you'd like to do a little practice, I recommend either writing or just observing if and when you do any of the negative types of speech, you know, the lying, the causing discord, speaking harshly, or gossiping, or idle chatter. And then note when you've spoken truthfully, or promoted harmony, or talked gently or meaningfully, and just see what the results of these different kinds of speech are. And you might also want to observe how they affect your listening experience, whether you're feeling listened to or you're listening to somebody else, perhaps more deeply and more carefully than you normally would or have been in the past. And then if you'd like, you can chant the Vajrasattva mantra and meditate after doing that for a few minutes. And if there's anything you do feel you need forgiveness for, anything you've done in the past that's still bothering you, you feel guilty about, it's a really good practice to chant the Vajrasattva mantra while resolving to not do that type of thing again. And once you do that, you can forgive yourself and be able to move on. So that's actually a really important practice on the spiritual path, is to be able to forgive ourselves for all of the wrong things we've done in the past. And that allows us to have the confidence to move forward in the spiritual path. Anybody have any questions or comments on anything we went over tonight? Okay, well, I hope everybody has a very good week and practices many wonderful experiences of positive speech, and that you gain the benefit from that and becoming more joyful and happy in your own life. So thank you very much for joining me. Have a good week.